Do your children remember their childhood the same way you do? I recently heard a clip from Mel Robbins' podcast where they were discussing birth order, but not in the usual way. Instead of focusing on personality traits, they talked about how no two kids actually grow up in the same family. That perspective really made me pause, because as moms, we assume we're raising our children in the same home, with the same values, and under the same roof. But over time, life shifts. Financially, emotionally, spiritually. And because of that, each child may experience a different version of the same parents. In this Mom's Perspective episode of Raising Boys with Purpose, we'll explore how birth order, family dynamics, and changing seasons can shape our sons in ways we may not always see. If you're a Christian mom raising boys, this conversation will help you reflect on sibling differences with more grace, for your sons and for yourself. Because God was present in every season of your parenting journey, and He's still at work in your family story. Welcome to Raising Boys with Purpose, a Christian parenting podcast for moms raising teens and young adult sons. I'm Brooke, a boy mom and parenting coach, and here we talk about raising sons, building character, and preparing our boys for adulthood with confidence and faith. When we hear birth order, we usually think about personality traits. The responsible oldest, the overlooked middle, and the carefree youngest. We joke about how the baby of the family has it easy. Comedian Nate Bargatze even had a story about how his younger sister seemed to have grown up with an entirely different set of parents than he did. And we laugh because it feels true. But what if it's not a joke? What if each child really does grow up in a slightly different family? Different seasons, different stressors, different financial realities, different maturity levels in us as parents. It shifts the conversation from personality to perspective. So a few years ago, my sister and I were talking about something from our childhood. She remembered it one way and I remembered it another. Of course, as the oldest, I was convinced that I had the accurate version. But what if we were both right? We grew up in a blended family. Over time, we called each other's parents mom and dad. From the outside, it looked unified. And in many ways, it was. But as adults, we realized we didn't always remember events the same way, or even feel like we experienced them the same way. And why would we? Some of us have years of life before our parents got married. Some were older when financial situations changed. Some were younger when dynamics shifted. I remember going off to college and hearing my younger siblings describe life at home and thinking, that doesn't even sound like the house I just left. The family had moved, their schools had changed, my mom went back to college, and the daily rhythm shifted. Without realizing it, the family they experienced wasn't exactly the same one that I had. And then years later, I saw it happen again in my own home. When my oldest went to college, we went from a family of 4 to a family of 3 overnight. There was a hole at the dinner table, a shift in the energy of the house. Our youngest suddenly had a lot more attention. And in some ways he enjoyed it. In other ways, I think he missed having his brother there to share it. For a good portion of high school, he lived almost like an only child. Same parents, same house, different experiences. And I began to realize I wasn't the exact same mom at 30 as I was at 45. I had more wisdom, different stress levels, different confidence, different resources, and different patience some days. Not because I loved one child more than the other, but because life isn't lived in a vacuum. Birth order may influence personality, but seasons influence experience. Economic changes, career shifts, moves, health, spiritual growth, marriage maturity, and sibling departures. All of it shapes how each child experiences the family story. And here's the encouraging part. Different doesn't mean damaged. It simply means dynamic. Families are living, growing ecosystems. They stretch and adjust to meet the needs of the moment. You know, Scripture tells us in Ecclesiastes 3:1 that there is a season for everything and every time for every matter under heaven. And maybe that applies to our families more than we realize. Each of our sons was born into a specific season, financially, emotionally, spiritually. The version of you may have changed, but it's not better and it's not worse. It's just shaped by time, growth, and grace. And Psalms 139 reminds us that God ordained all their days before one of them came to be. That means their birth order wasn't random. Their timing wasn't accidental. The season they were placed in was known by Him. So instead of feeling regret over what was different, we can rest in this. God was present in every season, and He is still at work in every story. So Mama, when your son remembers something differently than you do, pause before correcting him. Instead of dismissing his view of the past, lean in and listen. You may not share the same memory. You may not agree on every detail, but his experience still matters. One child's story doesn't cancel out another's. They can both be true. And the beautiful thing about family is this. As it grows and changes, through graduations, marriages, grandchildren, new seasons, our capacity to love grows too. We may not have been identical parents to each child, but we were the parents they had for that season. And God can use every season, even the imperfect ones, to shape our boys into the men they're becoming. If this episode of Raising Boys with Purpose encouraged you, please like this video and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of this podcast. And if you're raising a teen or young adult son and want encouragement and practical guidance, come join us in the Raising Boys with Purpose Facebook community. The link is below. Thanks for being here today. Now grab your iced coffee, hug your son, and remember, you're raising him with purpose.